Again, gonna not really have too many options on the side of top esports. Typically, when Jayce is picked up, and I think Tryndamere's gone, my mind instantly gravitates towards things like the Malphite, Sion, Gragas, like any real tank matchup that can neutralize him early. We even saw the Shy solo kills Gragas against Jayce yesterday. Or if Wayward was willing to play something more volatile, something along the lines of like an Irelia, I guess, is always there and available. But I would definitely much more expect to see maybe a tank top come out for Wayward. And then a lot of your eggs are going to be in the JackeyLove basket.
So I will say this is a huge pickup for Knight and Top Esports in particular, right? The first game of the BLG series for Top Esports, they went with the Victor for Knight, and it just didn't seem like the same play style for them. We got to see the Ahri in game number 2, and it absolutely exploded. That felt like a big momentum shift for TES. So this is a huge pick. Already a ton of comfort across the board for Top Esports in the first phase. And as I said at the beginning, I think that is super crucial if they are going to want to come into this series confident and comfortable. We do have the Xin Zhao banned by TES in the second phase, and the Malphite joined the table for LNG.
LNG having the same read as me, right? That not too many options left open outside of those tanks in top side. Wouldn't be surprised if Gragas is next ban for them. For the side of TS, I don't really feel like you have any junglers you need to particularly ban out here. I'm very curious to see where Tarzan goes. Like, Trundle still being left open is one thing, but I don't feel like that's something that plays super well with Ryze and like setting up two sides. You do offer a lot of peel and kite back for your comp that plays a lot of range. But that's it. We also have seen Nocturne a little bit in playoffs, and maybe that can enable these side lane dives, but we haven't really seen it all too successful. 0 and 2 so far. So Tarzan going to be, I think, grasping for straws a little bit in terms of the matchup he's willing to go for.
And obviously, we put a lot of spotlight on the mid lane matchup, Knight versus Doinb, but how does that get rolling? How does that get off the ground? It is through Tian and Tarzan, respectively. And I do want to see a little bit more focus for LNG in their second phase to make sure that they have something they can move forward with. As the Irelia ban joined the Malphite for LNG, it was the Poppy ban to join the Xin Zhao for TES. They are hovering the Gragas, and it's going to be locked in as well. I love this from TES.
It's just always been one of the best things, being able to answer Jayce in lane, being able to take, things like the phase rush, kind of like get in there, get out. How you have the body bop. If he comes in hammer form, you can interrupt that. You even have options in terms of the runes you can take right on spellbook if you want to be more of a threat for later, but still gives you some utility in lane with some of the earlier summoner spells. But now LNG gonna have to go with their options. We already hit on the Trundle and how that can function in their composition. Might not enable in terms of like the craziest mid-jungle 2v2s, but still a strong early skirmisher, and again, provides the pillar, provides some peel when it seems like LNG so far are really setting up to just keep Top Esports at arm's length, play out this range composition, win contests over mid-wave, get into river first, and really make life hell. When TS, okay, you have the Ahri, a bit of conditional engage right, can find ways to start fights, but Gragas is going to be the real one serving that, and the Renata pick, I think it's kind of strange, if I'm being honest.
So,
I mean, when we're hitting on LNG, wanting to play at arm's length, Mazel, Renata wants to play against dive.
Yeah, I definitely see that for sure. It's a little bit rough in that aspect of it, but I believe, and I'm pretty sure, Mark is still at that 100% win rate on the Renata because it got banned away in the series after it got played through the last time around. So maybe a little bit of confidence going in there. But I will say LNG's composition, we were talking about trying to get that fluidity, especially between Tarzan, the bot lane, and getting the kind of leads from the mid game into the bot lane and feeding through light. I think their composition sets up so beautifully for that. You have the Rakan to make sure that Iwani can have some of that roam potential, have the engaged shot calling that you need, but you also have the strength and skirmishing for Tarzan that I think is so important. And Doinb on the rise, I don't think you have to question anything about that. Level 6, he's going to be getting on the roams.
No, 100% right. So yeah, I think for LNG, you can kind of look towards bot pre-6 before that Renata ultimate comes online and starts dissuading some of those plays to come through. Hopefully they can find a bit of an advantage. You already hit on the Trundle, extremely strong skirmisher. You will do well into the Viego, especially if Doinb is enabling that with the Ryze. But later on, again, I feel like it pivots more into just playing from a range, throwing out the poke, and then letting this Jayce and Jinx pop off, to where for the side of Top Esports, they need to be more proactive, they need to be more aggressive. They have a lot of pick tools between this Ahri and this Gragas to catch members of LNG out.
They do, and the picks are going to be super important. I think you can't rest on your laurels in a situation like this, and I want to see some of that proactivity as we hit the rip for the first time of the evening. one of these teams will move on from this best of 5 into the double elim bracket of the LPL Spring Playoffs. LNG versus Top Esports kicks off now.
Coming into the Rift, a lot of things stock and standard so far. Wayward going to go with the Comet, has been what a lot of Gragas have favored lately. I mean, just giving you a bit more harass in the matchup. We look at Doinb, Conqueror in the mid lane, so not gonna actually go with the phase rush himself. And apparently 600 games, Mazel.
That's huge.
600 games for the man in the mid lane.
This is the 600th game for Doinb. I think that's an absolutely incredible accolade to have, especially coming into the first game of a best of 5. That's setting us up for some potential history here, I feel like. But we are getting that vision cleared out from LNG early on. I do want to set up a little bit more on the TES side, though. We talked a lot about the synergies we were looking for, you know, the early skirmishing on the Trundle, how Iwandi can kind of get going with that. You were talking earlier about foreshadowing that TES need to get the ball rolling early. They need to find some advantages for themselves. I do still feel like that is going to come at that level 6 mark, which can be troubling when you are dealing with the Realm Warp and things along those lines for Doinb, but you really need that Spirit Rush. You need the Heartbreaker to set things going in the skirmishes.
Oh, 100%, but I feel like at least Top Esports, their like early mid-game power spike is much stronger, right? Once they hit those level 6 mark, have the ultimates. I mean, having aggressive in combat ultimates coming out from Knight compared to Doinb, Tian going to be able to get a lot of value out of the burst coming out from both of his solo lanes. And Top Esports 5v5 overall is actually very solid, right? You have members like Knight and Wayward who are able to go in. You have Mark, who is peeling for JackeyLove, setting up for his damage to come out. The only thing for LNG is that range advantage that we were talking about can be very annoying to deal with later. But if Top Esports can find a bit of momentum early on, maybe set up for some things like early Rift Heralds. I know Dagda talked a lot in your guys' last series of TS. Actually don't pick up first Herald too much of the time as a bit of a trade comes out.
It's always
typically going for that second Herald.
Yeah, it's always about the second Herald. They always got to fight for it. We are getting our first ganks across, though. Knight getting locked up by the prison there and the pillar. There won't come anything of it, no flash burnt or anything, but at least early proactivity from Tarzan feels like LNG are in the right place.
Especially being on the Trundle, right? I mean, a lot of times this Trundle, you can look for a lane early, just pop the pillar, and maybe even just force a flash off that. But look at the mini-map. Tian right now, angling for a gank top.
This is huge, actually. It has a huge angle, and the beautiful flash body slam. First blood for Top Esports at Tian.
Great coordination coming out from their side, and looks like LNG were trying to answer on the opposite side of the map. But JackeyLove and Mark aren't falling for it, not even having to blow any summoners. So overall, Top Esports just finding a nice advantage for themselves. I'd say the only silver lining for Al is he didn't have to burn his flash, so, I mean, you still have that available, but, I mean, at the end of the day, you still gave over a kill. Wayward still collecting all this CS, as I don't think the wave crashed into turret, but we can see next time we pan over the top side.
Well, I will also say something that stood out to me, obviously. I mean, Tian himself, legendary jungler. We'll get a replay in the bottom of that bottom lane gank that did not come to fruition for Top Esports. But something for Tian last time around, in his Viego game in game number 4, he had one of the most unique early game paths on Viego to get down to the bot lane to get ahead JackeyLove and Mark. It was actually incredible. But overall, the theme in the last couple games were that Tian was just big braining it. He was absolutely incredible in his pathing. So I want to keep an eye on that today and see if we get a little bit more of that. We do get that first blood for him as well. So on the right track at least.
Yeah, no, I was kind of curious to see if Tian would put any heavy focus towards mid, considering again it's Tian versus Doinb in this match. Maybe, just looking for a bit of hey man, I got the better end of the trade in terms of changing teams. But Tarzan,
oh no, he's spotted out.
Got to focus on him he's spotted out. We also see Tian was actually spotted out on the opposite side as well. So neither jungler gonna be able to do anything, Mazel.
It's kind of nice how JackeyLove and Mark are playing this. They weren't exactly letting on that they knew he was there. They even played real close to the bush. The back barely gets completed there by Tarzan. He'll get his reset off, and as you said, nothing really coming to fruition there. We do see Tian heading down towards this bottom lane. Dragon coming up on the board. Wonder if he wants to take that opportunity down that way. And early Dragon stacking could be an out for TES, especially when you were talking about that late game potential for LNG.
And, I want to clarify something on that, so I'm happy you brought it up, is that I don't feel like Top Esports, damage necessarily falls off like a huge pit or their formation, because you do still have the Aphelios. You do have Renata, who again is just going to be able to get so much value, especially if she's able to get that W, maybe save someone like JackeyLove, get more value out of it. It really is the formation of the range coming out from LNG. Even their front line, the fact that they have the Trundle is going to be able to take away some resistances on the opposite side, though. It's not like top esports even really have much of a heavy front line, an obvious target for Tarzan to take away from, especially if Wayward just opts into playing something like the Everfrost Gragas, which we have been seeing a bit of. Again, obviously another thing that Shy did play yesterday, so I think both teams have options. I just always get afraid when we have Jayce, Jinx, or like any kind of range on one side. Is LPL teams do typically just love to brute force their way into it. And top esports, even if they do have like some engage, right, like maybe Wayward coming off on a flank, or if Knight can find a good angle, it's not like guaranteed engage, like let's say a Nautilus, or maybe if you had a Scion on the top side.
Yeah, I completely agree. And obviously, a lot of execution in between those lines when you're talking about it all. But I think something that's super important, and something I want to keep an eye on, especially for both these teams, right? On LNG's side, not getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar. I think something that has come back to bite them is a little bit of the overzealous plays, some of the extensions there, but especially getting caught setting things up or getting caught in transition itself. And on the side of top esports, you know, making sure that that early aggression is something that can be tapered to Knight and getting Knight ahead, making sure that Knight is going to be the mid-game carry for the team. And so far, so steady, right? We were talking a little bit about the hand in the cookie jar for LNG. Nothing to come of it just yet, but got to keep an eye when we get to these objectives, especially now that we've hit level 6 for the mid laners. We're going to get a lot of that roaming potential.
And Doinb's going to have first move onto mid wave after taking the blue buff, so we can get a little bit of a push out. But doesn't look like LNG really have any opportunities available. Tarzan making his way down towards the bot side, but Tian going to use this opportunity to maybe try and find an avenue to punish Ala. Him and Wayward both have their ultimates up.
They do. He does land a little bit of damage onto Ala early on, but he does not know Tian is there just yet. Spending a lot of time up here is Tian, though. But nothing really in response from Tarzan. We're just buying our time. Ala steps up just a little bit too far, and he will take his second death of the game. Give it to Tian.
Great to see from top esports, just re-punishing on this top side. Ala not even having a chance to blow his flash either time that Tian has come up. And we were hitting on this a little bit in the pregame that Ala has really been the biggest underperformer on the side of LNG, in my opinion. Especially with LvMao kind of being subbed out and Iwandi being brought in. Really feels like Ala is the only glaring issue still there. Again, obviously Tarzan, I think Doinb as well haven't had the same splits you would expect out of them, but both of them have been very proactive in the early game, and they're looking to contest on that top side right now.
And it's just showing heads-up play from top esports. Oh my god, Tarzan gets the steal! He's in there as well. The shock blast from Ala gets the kill, and now Realm Warp's coming in from onto Tarzan, trying to get some help further on in the fight, but that's a big turnaround for LNG.
It's just so sad for
my
TES.
God. The
Knight.
quickness, the prison connected after the flash, and Knight goes down to Doinb.
And there it is. There it is, Mazel, playing for the mid lane. Iwandi, so much more proactive on the map than LvMao was when he was on this squad, making his way up, helping enable Doinb, and setting Knight behind, finding a bit of a kill. And not going to deny the wave. Sure, it's going to be picked up by Tian, so ultimately it isn't really gold value lost for their side. But still, heading straight into the replay from this one. Actually gonna, oh my god, we're actually going really far back. Yeah, Belly Bop comes through straight into the cast. And I mean, right, he had flash up, but he was only about 5% HP. He would have been dead no matter what there. And then here, Tarzan getting in, finding the smite. Viego's not being up, and just able to come out ahead, despite the fact that Ala had just been taken down, hit enough time to come and react. But Knight, sadly, not expecting this one. Iwandi wasn't showing on the wave, so I feel like LNG could have had a bit of a heads up here. Maybe they assumed they could be taking Krugs, but I think Knight having to account for those roams.
JackeyLove pressing up on the bottom lane. Let's get a little bit careful there, but it's crazy to me that we got all three of those plays back to back to back. It was just constant chaos in that early skirmishing. We will see it come out even here. You did say it's not much of a gold lead after everything is said and done, but we do have the Rift Herald on Doinb to utilize and try to get some more plate for LNG, at least in some sort of fashion, especially in that mid lane we were talking about being so important. But I do like to see the aggression from JackeyLove on the Aphelios and bot lane. I think that's something so crucial to keep against LNG, because we were talking about getting early advantages for top esports. And at this point, you just need to find it in any way, shape, or form you can.
Yeah, and LNG right now look like they're fishing for it around mid lane. Tarzan waiting in the wings, but Knight this time isn't going to fall for it. Even Iwandi being pinged out in the bottom side tri-brush. But typically, when you see Riptail go to a laner, I think it's kind of unfortunate for the fact that, like, most likely it means it's going to end up being used in their lane, right? Like, you could try and hard force an opportunity to roam, but even that becomes telegraphed. At least on a Ryze, I mean, with the Realm Warp, like, top esports do have to wonder a bit of where it could be used. I'd still expect it to come out in the mid lane for their side. They haven't really been able to chunk and find plates too much elsewhere. So open that one up mid could be an option, or even just trying to get more gold onto Ala, who has been someone who's been able to hit turret a little bit. Maybe not as much as he likes, but looking now, LNG are making the move up toward top.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit of cross-map action here. Second dragon of the game will go to top esports on the bottom side, as this is where their strength lies. It seems like JackeyLove and Mark are going to have to be the carry a little bit earlier on than they had potentially planned for, but to get the Rift Herald on the top side, be able to take down some more of these plates here for Ala, and at least get him back in the game after being put down a little early on. That kill plus those turret plates going to help out a lot.
I mean, he's already on his Eclipse and has been, like, keeping up in farm just fine, so still going to be able to do a nice bit of damage, but not as ahead as he would have liked to be in this matchup if top esports hadn't dedicated so many resources into shutting him down. And LNG now just going to keep enabling him. You look at the minimap, they have all of their vision up towards the top side.
Oh my god, Ala
Wayward
is actually putting some serious damage back, but Wayward with the beautiful plays and the cast to go on top of it. There's the flash body slam, and he is dead. Wayward gets a kill. He is playing alcove gameplay, crying his a little heart out because he is left all by his lonesome. He's going to buy a lot of time. Couple little stutter steps there, but Doinb will pick up the kill in the end.
Man, I absolutely love Wayward. I remember talking to Ox the other day, and he said, hey, keep a lookout. Wayward actually has the dankest emote game in the LPL. I had to use that word. That's the only fitting word there is Iwandi might be caught out.
Talk about getting your hand caught in the cookie jar. Will not be so this time around for Iwandi. He makes it out with the chocolate chip cookies. Tian doesn't get to say anything about it, but we do have JackeyLove pushing in the tower here. First tower will go down, though, to LNG, sub 13 minutes. So Doinb going up there to clean house on that one, get a little bit extra gold for himself.
I gotta say, LNG, despite a lot of their flaws, I feel like they've been one of the best teams at, like, committing to cross maps in the LPL, even in the later portions when they were struggling a little bit. They aren't a team who, let's say, like, postures too long over Herald or, like, sits just staring at you while you're making a play. No, they always look for the opposite side. So we're going to see here, really nice ult coming out from Wayward, straight into the queue with the body bop able to follow. Ala at this point realizes something's up, but Wayward, luckily, the E comes back up. He has the flash available, and he's able to finish that one off. And now, again, there's the emote game that we're talking about. Wayward proved he was the more Chad top laner. That's all we need to win the mental game.
It absolutely is a mental game. The Amumu crying there, knowing that he will eventually go down, does not phase him in the slightest, but it is of it telling, you know, that we have seen an adaptation here in LNG, putting a decent amount of focus towards his top side. They realize that with Tarzan, Doinb, and Ala, they can get up there and get some aggression going for themselves, and they're utilizing this beautifully. But we're coming to the point where we need to see that mid-game synergy come through for Tian and Knight, and especially the entirety of top esports, because you do want this Ahri to be in a place of power for Knight, who is, as I was saying before, the MVP of this team. He is the gear that runs a majority of the function for top esports.
And for TES, they weren't able to find anything around mid, right? We didn't see Tian put much emphasis there. They really focused on punishing in top side. Didn't try to get Knight any timings to maybe try and move and enable those top side plays. And it's left him just a little bit stagnant.
Second time? Nope. Second time might be the charm, but Iwandi is the Rakan, has a lot of that mobility there. We will see top esports still putting all the pressure on bottom side, and it's been so telling and obvious the team's putting opposite focuses here on the map. We did get another Rift Herald going over to LNG, though, and it will be in Tarzan's pocket this time. So a lot of lane pressure available. Doinb flashes out of the charm. Nicely done.
Is able to get away, but still no summoner. Especially now as we're going to look, I think LNG soon are going to start transitioning down to that 1-3-1. Looks like they're still keeping their bot side for now. Maybe look to try to break that one open. But with top side open for LNG, you have the winning matchup in the Jayce right now. You can push that one out. You can start to look to move. You can put a bit of a siege onto mid lane. Try and coordinate to drop that Rift Herald, take down mid lane turret, and deny top esports options even more. Because one thing about LNG's comp is they do have two champions that feel very comfortable in the side lane. For TS, like, sure, Wayward can go into the side lane, and we'll see him do fine, but not going to generate too much 1v1 pressure. I feel like for TS, it's a lot more about grouping up. Knight can handle side lane, could be a bit of a 1-4, and then grouping up together, trying to find these picks, making your way into the enemy jungle.
It's all about trying to find that way in. I have liked to see Tarzan playing a little bit aggressive. They're going to utilize the Rift Herald in mid lane now, and it's all about trying to snowball this into getting into a gold lead for LNG, because they've been trying to recoup some of the gold early on. That'll be the second tower going over to them. Potentially a little bit of a skirmish afterwards, as well as now JackeyLove has come into mid lane. Second charge will go off. A little bit of damage on that tier 2 is going to do LNG nicely.
And it even helps guarantee the prio. They had members mid first, so they can turn on a dragon. And then this is where their poke really comes online, trying to dissuade TS.
Here comes Tian, though, not quick enough to get to the dragon. First dragon will go over it. The hostile takeover not only hitting Tarzan, as he takes a couple swings at Awandi, but nothing else coming of it. TP to the mid lane to defend as top esports show up and force all 5 members to try and claim their second tower of the game.
And top esports having the ability to move first, considering that they forced LNG to pivot down.
Wayward with the casks, but the turnaround, the bailout, is it enough for Wayward to survive? No, it's not, because Iwandi's going in for a double kill on the Rakan. Tian, Knight, and Mark are still alive. They're still pressing up, even if it's an unmanned fight. But what a turnaround from LNG to spring when the moment is right.
They found the setup, Iwandi going in. They had the long-range damage follow-up coming out from Light and his ultimate. I believe also got an accelerated shock blast in there. And top esports were just completely deleted. TS now having to back off from the siege they were putting on. LNG not able to take anything off of it. We're going to see here what happens. Wayward, once again, finds a really nice cast into the body bob. But here we see the members go in. Ultimate comes out. Accelerated shock blast, a shock blast lands into the rocket. And instantly 2 members of TS are just taken down. Wayward was a little bit low from tanking some of the damage from engaging on Doinb, but still, nice return by the side of LNG. And gold still completely even.
Gotta love it. 18 minutes in, it is neck and neck. We've had it completely go either way in different skirmishes, especially that last one. I love to see, JackeyLove try to put down as much damage as he could at the last second, even if he was getting blown up. But you see the potential, right? Because we were talking a lot in the beginning about this mid-jungle duos, how to get this early to mid-game advantage snowballing into the late game, because in the end, it still does come down to the ADCs. It still does come down to Light and JackeyLove on their respective teams in those late game 5v5s. And I think it's so telling that we're starting to see that transition here. We're getting the Gale Forces onto the ADCs. We're getting that aggression that we love to see from that position here in the LPL.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really annoying for the side of TS later on, though, especially as Doinb starts to get tankier and tankier. Already having the Fimble Winter, sitting on the cloth armor right now, having the Merc Treads to deal with like some of the CC options on the side of TS. And, I mean, Ahri, again, I think notoriously not the highest damage mid lane champion or mid lane assassin champion that we have in the meta. Can fall off a little bit if she isn't able to get ahead. Wayward not really going to fulfill a heavy damage role, so it's mostly going to come down to JackeyLove. Tian as well, will be able to do a little bit, but still it's ultimately about his ultimate usage and finding those resets. To where for LNG, you have 2 big damage dealers in Light and Ala. You have Doinb, who's, is a tank, but still going to putting off some decent damage, especially as he took the Conqueror, and then 2 other supportive members there. So I still feel like LNG in a solid position. But top esports at least have the buffer of 2 dragons. And if they can find a fight where Mark's ultimate gets a lot of value, that could be the breaking point that gives TS a bit of an advantage.
That's what I am so vehemently excited for both these teams, because it's a lot of the one thing can change. everything about these team fights, right? One big hostile takeover into the resets for Tian will bring fights to a victory for Top Esports. While on the other side, if you hold on for LNG, you take calm, cool, collected fights and you keep them at arm's length, that poke, that damage from Light and Ala is going to be terrifying. I will say that we've already seen a lot of things go down. Wayward with the excellent casks and the focus down towards his bottom lane now might mean that we get some more shenanigans as he is invaded on. He's in some trouble here, but he's trying to get the bailout in time. Iwandi, it's not dead yet, and he will go down finally. It's still, though, Wayward getting traded back.
LNG tried to find the opportunity, but I think TS with a really nice response, already dedicating a lot of those members down towards the bot side, because I think the play was somewhat telegraphed coming out from LNG with how aggressively Ala was pushing forward. They saw Doinb wasn't showing in top side. He was farming jungle camps that whole time, so TS can read that, hey, this play is going to come down towards the bottom side of the map. I do think execution pretty good here from the side of LNG, especially the pillar from Tarzan. Yeah. But with Iwandi being so committed, and then Mark with the ultimate, I mean, Iwandi had nowhere to go, and he eventually gets traded.
But it's still super interesting to see how stellar Iwandi has been, right? Like, we were putting so much focus on the trio of them, but I think Iwandi himself on this Rakan is really showing out in the first game, and I think that's super integral when you're seeing not the typical comfort come through for TES, right? They were putting focus towards his top side, changing things up for the first game in this best of 5 and not putting all the eggs in the night basket, kind of expecting him to hold his own a little bit. But it's really the side of LNG that are shining in that trio, and as they pick up their second dragon of the game, we're tied up in those objectives.
And it also just comes down to the fact that Iwandi just suited the team with his playstyle so much better than LvMao did. Because you think back right to FPX where Doinb defined the playstyle, was there for so long. It was all about mid-jungle support, and support and jungle really playing around those mid-timers, and then Doinb using back to enable them. To where for LvMao, sat in lane a lot more. Iwandi constantly moving on the map and playing with these key members of LNG. And when we talk about just LNG as a whole, again, I want to reiterate, I think they're in a great spot. Not the hugest fan of TS's composition. I feel like we even saw in the fight earlier around, I think it was second or third dragon, how Mark throws out his ultimate, but LNG are playing from such a long range, they actually do just kite it out. They just run away from it, and then you see on not much you could get here. So Top Esports having to force LNG into small pockets of control like here, and then maybe you could try and find some value.
They do connect the charm, the cask again, Moonlight Vigil, and JackeyLove. There's the hostile takeover you wanted as they turn it on ahead. And TES, they don't take the tower, but they at least get out with a couple kills. Iwandi and Tarzan down. They are turning onto the Baron. It is all about the snowball for Top Esports.
Yeah, and they're just going to go for this one. A lot of ultimates burned. Actually, every ultimate burned from Top Esports on the side of that play. But with LNG losing 2 members, looks like they're just going to commit for a gold trade. Pushing heavily in the mid lane, taking away some camps.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
You know, the hair stands on my neck every single time we see something like that, but it will not be so this time around.
No, now Top Esports having the Baron, already having the gold lead on top of this as well, plus 1,500, and now going to be able to start taking over the map bit by bit. I think playing out a bit through 2 lanes once Gragas answers the bot side. But I love how TES did this because, again, I feel like they only really get value out of their composition if they can force LNG into these kind of small pockets of control. They all group up mid, and it sets up for the hostile takeover to come through. And Wayward, once again, was the one to find the play. He's really been the crucial difference maker here in this game, involved in 7 kills, 100% kill participation for the Top Esports top laner.
He has been getting cask after cask in ways that would blow my mind if I was facing it. Like, he is putting you into a position where you literally don't have anything to say about your champion, and he's just getting a full combo of damage down and setting up the rest of the team. That's what's so scary is you see that combo of the hostile takeover into all the CC, into the AoE that can be put down by JackeyLove. That Moonlight Vigil was incredible. And it's just showing an inkling of the team fight that Top Esports can do when the execution is there. Speaking of execution, Knight just playing a little bit with fire here on the fire. Ahri does have to use the Spirit Rush out. Hostile takeover comes through from Mark as they do push in on the vision of LNG and into the red buff as they have the Baron minions in mid lane.
And I feel like the important thing that we're seeing here is not they have Baron buff. TES being able to push forward aggressively means they can force LNG to be the ones to walk into them. So they can get a lot of value out of the tools that they have, and LNG can't just sit there and you know keep that range that they've been looking to do all game long. So TES able to do so much. Look at the vision control coming out in bot side as well. 1 minute and 40 seconds away from the Dragon. If they can keep this up, because they're still going to have Baron for a solid minute, they're really going to make it impossible for LNG to walk in and contest that one. And heck, might even be able to find more picks if LNG gets a little bit antsy and tries to brute force their way into their own jungle.
And I will say we have now reached the JackeyLove precipice. We have the Dominic's Regard finished up for the Aphelios. He is on 3 items now. You thought it was doing damage before. Well, now it's going to be even scarier. And Top Esports realize they are on a power spike with this Baron buff. They can push up on it. And I think that's something for Top Esports that's been so crucial for them. When they get a lead, they push it forward every single time and try to make your life hell. And now LNG moving in to dissuade that a little bit here on the bottom side, trying to clear out some vision for themselves. Might find themselves in a skirmish, though, as they are getting locked down. Iwandi going with the quickness, the grand entrance onto 2 of them. Damage is down, but Moonlight Vigil comes out from JackeyLove, and nobody has touched JackeyLove yet. You still got to get the ADCs. They are the focus, but Light is on the side here. Light is trying to get excited. He's caught. That's a big accelerated shock blast, and they get them all. It's LNG coming out with a fight. It's TES with their hand in the cookie jar this time.
And that's what you need to see from your AD carry, someone who's willing to aggressively walk forward. I feel like yesterday that was some of the stuff we were missing from some of the games between WayBo and EDG, but Light not afraid to be the playmaker here. Like you said, Ala as well, accelerated shock blast. Great to see LNG turn that one around. When we were hitting on, Top Esports had Baron. They were the ones forcing them in, not allowing to enter. Not only now are they going to pick up Dragon, but answering with turrets, answering with camps, denying Top Esports gold experience and everything on the map.
Everything indeed. Third Dragon will go over to LNG. That's 3 Hextech Dragons back to back to back. One more for the soul. And it just like that, it's flipped on its head. You thought TES were feeling comfy. Well, it's all LNG's comfort here.
And we saw Wayward going in to start this one off, a little bit awkward with the other members of TES not around, has to flash out immediately. And we see Iwandi get so much value come out of his quickness. But I feel like the members to focus on here are Light, putting out damage in the backside. Again, look at how low he's chunking them. Then this accelerated shock blast, bringing them down, because we've said time and time again, Top Esports kind of thriving in the close quarters combat, but the fact that they are so heavily grouped up allowed for the AoE damage to come out from Light, to come out from Doinb. Once Ala flashes out, again, that massive shock blast to come through, and I think TS being a little bit overzealous in terms of trying to find a pick onto Tarzan when Tarzan's the one walking forward, when Tarzan is a very tanky member. And again, TS are ahead, especially with JackeyLove having that LDR. It feels really good, but still not just being able to burst him out in an instant, especially as he has the Anathema's chains.
Yeah, I think it's super integral, though, that they do that, right? I was talking a little bit earlier about TS when they get a lead, right? They love to snowball. They like to take control. They want to be up in your face and not let you breathe for a moment. Well, LNG realized that they were getting to a point like that where Top Esports were just constantly in their red side to say enough is enough, let's move in there, and they absolutely capitalize on it. I think with that execution, right, you can see that it does make it a little easier to pull apart those fights, especially when Light is playing so aggressive. And for Top Esports, you're definitely going to see a little bit of that confidence wane here. A lot of bodies in this mid lane just kind of trying to set up that priority for themselves, as we do have Baron on the table in about 30 seconds, but nothing else really to speak of.
No, so both teams going to posture towards top side, but I do want to go back on the Anathema's chains coming up from Tarzan, because with TS's comp, again, being so heavily reliant on their AD carry, that's going to do so much. Tarzan taking less damage from the Aphelios, on top of the 20% reduced tenacity that JackeyLove's going to get. With the amount of CC that LNG have, right? I mean, Doinb, Tarzan, and Iwandi all having ways to lock him down, feels like it will be crucial. But TS, wanting to force a fight, probably going to try and set Knight up, is instantly having to back off as LNG aggressively walk forward.
Tarzan getting chained up with all the Everfrost, 2 Everfrost auto, but there, look, it's the instant clap back as Knight gets half his health taken down. LNG move back from that priority in mid lane to clear out some of this vision around the Baron buff, around the Baron pit itself. And you see Top Esports really have nothing to say about it. They have the setup in some of these fights, but they are losing a little bit of that confidence in this setup, and that range is coming to fruition for LNG. They can just poke and prod at every dark bush.
And we've seen for TS the way they find fights, right? It's either one. Again, it is a bit of a pick, even if it is Wayward kind of walking into multiple members, because he separates them with the explosive cast. You find one kill, you have the numbers advantage, you can try and follow through from there, especially with the hostile takeover coming from Mark. Or if they're able to generate pressure like they did before, which is much harder now with how wide open the map is with so many turrets down, force them into one location. You have a ton of AoE coming out from the side of TS's composition as well.
TS just seem like they want to fight here as they're positioning for it. Flash over the wall. Doinb is on to JackeyLove, but the hostile takeover comes back. Doinb in some trouble now. He is focused down. Now you get the resets from Tian. He's back onto the back line. Re-engaged from Iwandi, but he is obliterated. And LNG have been dusted. This is the chaos. This is where TS thrive. Point blank TP from Wayward. Maybe not the best into that one, but it's an ace for TS.
And I just don't know why Doinb feels like he needs to make that play. Like, JackeyLove walks forward, so he thinks he finds the angle to pick off the AD carry, and that would be a win. But commits so heavily with the flash, he gets taken down. And then the other members of LNG kind of baited into the fight, when that's pretty much gone against the play pattern we've been hitting on the whole time. Now for the side of TS, not going to be able to look for the end with how low death timers are. Tarzan up in 4 seconds, but Top Esports going to try and turn this one into a Baron.
They tried to go for the mid lane, did not decide to continue with it, and will turn back onto the Baron, but it burns down so quickly here. The Top Esports, they're getting TP'd on, though. Doinb trying to make up for it. No, decides to go to the mid lane and clear that one out, because that might be a little overzealous if we're talking about overzealous. Mega Death Rocket skirts right on through, and it's Top Esports who have blown up to a 4,000 gold lead and now have Baron buff yet again.
Still, LNG probably to get Soul off that play as we come into the replay, I think, at a pretty inconvenient time. But yeah, Doinb thinks he finds the angle because JackeyLove walks forward. But again, you're kind of forcing your members like your Jinx, like your Jayce into not a very good play pattern. Instantly, Top Esports are able to turn with the amount of CC that they have on the board. 2 bursts out the Ryze, and again, then having numbers advantage from that, they can
We're
fall
right
through.
back in
but
it.
Mazel, this is what I want to see.
We are right back in it. Soul is secured by LNG. They have the Hextech Soul. Huge amounts of damage, but here comes Wayward. Caskin on the flank. You got Knight. He's trying to get in with a Spear Rush, but he can't do so. Has to get right back out. Doinb in the front line, putting in some AoE, but now he's left out to dry. LNG, you got to save your mid laner. They don't do so. Hostile takeover will not hit anybody, but Top Esports, Iwandi with the re-engage. LNG, this could be the turnaround fight, but you're getting the reset now, and here comes Top Esports. JackeyLove is carrying the game. Knight is coming through clutch, and somehow they lose the soul, but they might just win the game.
And LNG were the ones who opted into that, right? Iwandi turned back onto TS, thinking they had the damage to pull through. Tian had the Guardian Angel, though, so you committed so heavily onto the Viego, he's able to get the revive, and now Top Esports can just look to end the game.
Tian almost dead, but Ala flashing away from Knight. They're pushing onto the towers. Iwandi wants to stop this. This could just be game number 1 going down. And TES, you thought it was rocky, but they had it all along, apparently. Ala doesn't really have anything to say about this as JackeyLove is onto the Nexus. They want a couple more kills. They want to pad those KDAs, but it's the Nexus they have their eyes set on, and Mark will auto-attack it one more time to finish it off. Top Esports come away with game number 1 of this best of 5.
And it was just so weird. It was so weird. I felt like LNG, like, gold was even for most of the game, right? But it felt like LNG were kind of the ones in control for the majority of it. We saw good games coming out from members like Doinb. He was the one finding advantages early on with support coming from Tarzan. Iwandi was someone you highlighted quite a bit for the impact he was having. And then it felt like LNG, I mean, getting too ahead of themselves in some of these moments where I really didn't feel like they needed to. You saw Top Esports start to struggle with ways to find some of these picks. LNG were able to turn around some fights, but at the end of the day, Doinb thinking he finds angles, getting caught off guard in some of those last fights. Iwandi believing they could turn it, kind of underestimating the GA coming out from Tian to be able to buy more time for the fight, allow for the other members to follow up. And this game, extremely back and forth, a la huge damage for the side of LNG. But JackeyLove, we hit on him pretty much being the primary and sole damage dealer for the side of Top Esports. It was all they needed. Yeah,
it didn't need the early to mid-game snowball. You just needed JackeyLove on Aphelios. But the thing for me that's so crucial here in looking back at LNG is you were talking about it consistently, right? Their late game was what their eye was set on. They wanted to make it to late game. They got 4 Hextech Dragons. And yes, we were at 33.5 minutes in, but it just felt like they had more time to play with. But they were getting forced into the playstyle TS. They were getting forced into the aggression the top esports.
Mazel, they were forcing it.
But that's
they
what
were the
I'm
ones
saying.
forcing
That's
it.
what, like, mentally, they just got the tables turned off. I don't know what it was. They didn't need to fight those fights, but they felt like they had to take the aggression.
Top esports have mind control powers?
No
Mazel?
way.
Is that what you're saying?
I think that might be it. I think it might be it, Lyric. I think
but
Jackie
I agree. I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, we saw the one fight where Light did get a lot of damage off, seeing the low damage numbers, really only Ala putting those up. Because we never got, we only had one fight where it was kind of both teams hitting frontline to frontline, and that's where LNG, had that one fight behind Dragon Pit where they came out ahead. We didn't really see that the rest of the game. To be fair to Top Esports, they didn't really give many opportunities for that to come, but like you're saying, I feel like LNG could have been more patient, but Top Esports at the end of the day, they found the picks and they got it done.
Can I just say, though, one huge shout out. I don't know if he'll win MVP. Who knows at this point? JackeyLove may be winning that one, but Wayward with the casks. Oh, my God. It is insanity. Do not let that one through yet again. We'll see on the other side of this break, though, as we get ready for game number 2, so don't touch that browser.